Right, in the last session, I think we are discussing about the advanced settings. Right, so advanced settings we are discussing. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I think we have discussed about the fiscal year, at the same time business closure. Even we have discussed even about the queues, right? So that part we have discussed. Now,
Yep.
territories is what we need to discuss here. I think territories also we have discussed, if I'm not wrong, right? So Excel templates, creating Excel, right? So by importing the data, right? So that's what we have discussed even in the earlier ones. Now, about that site creation is what we need to understand. Because whenever we are developing an application of CRM in context to the sales application itself is concerned, wherein we have to understand what are the different sites do we require to create, because creating a new sites give different dimensions of the project. So if you want to have a dimensions for different for the project in a different ways, wherein creating new sites one and wherever it is needed is essentially required. So here you can see here there will be an option called create new site. I think on a high level note, I have explained yesterday, right? So this was that. This is what generally the new site information, new site was, where we have to provide the relevant details regarding this. Because whatever the details are we going to mention to create a site, will provide all the information relating to the particular site, what is that we are creating. For example, HYS, right? So this is what generally the name I have taken. Or is JUN, right? So JUN is what generally the name was taken, right? For example, right? So site name was JUN. So if you want to provide the main phone number as well as any alternate numbers and all, whenever we are creating a site, we have to provide the accurate details. Because here, of course, I am not mentioning anything of that sort, but you can mention some phone numbers over here, right? So that we can do it. At the same time, if you want to provide email ID for the particular site, what is that we have created? Even email account followed by any fax number, all that can be given. At the same time, we have an option to provide an address here, followed by the site hosting is important. Means in which zone generally this site will be uploaded, right? So that's what we need to see, because the application, uh, whoever is managing, from where are they managing is important. Depends on the kind of time zones it belongs to, right? So this time zones may be something maybe in Indian time zones, or maybe in any other time zones, GMT time zones and all, everything that we have to select. This time zone selection depends on the kind of application who are managing. Based on that, this time zones will vary. Okay, that is one thing we have to understand here. So this time zones can be changed. This time zones can be changed. Whichever the time zone this application belongs to, that time zone has to be given here. At the same time, as I mentioned we can provide some address relating to the state or zip code or country, right? So at the same time, remaining details can be given. So once we have given, so that you can click on save. Yeah. Right. So you can click on send, right? So this is what, yeah, this is what generally uh, So this is where generally we have seen the information, right? So whatever the sites we have and all everything, those sites we can see. Whatever the sites we have created so far, we can see the sites over here, right? Whatever the site we have created, you can see there is a site which was already created. Like this, multiple sites can be created, because as long as we are creating new sites, depends on the requirement we have and all. So if you want, we can create multiple sites here, right? For example, right? So maybe July, right? So this is what I have given. Right, so I'm giving it and I'm clicking on save. Right, so if you want, yeah, so if you want to add any kind of new sites and all everything, again we can go ahead and we can save it, right? So this is one thing we can do. So here are the sites we can see, whatever the sites we have created. So whatever the sites we have created, all that we can see, right? So different sites we can see here. Along with this, we have a workflow here, right? So workflow is also required and workflow is also needed. So whenever we want to create and run the workflows in reference to the activities, what we are deleting, so what we are adding so far, all that, we need to update the site information, whatever is required and whatever is needed. That's what generally this site information we need to mention. At the same time, we have to select any one record. So before we are working on, means whichever the site are we going to maintain. So based on that site maintenance, we have to provide some lookup records here that is required. So workflow means workflows. If you want to create or run workflows and all, so we have to create a workflow. Depends on the kind of site, what is that we have created. So here, whenever we are selecting, I have selected the one record wherein I have selected a run workflow, wherein it was asked us look in, right? So look into what, right? So look into on-demand workflows. Now here is a search option where if you want to search any kind of records and all everything, that's records can be searched here. At the same time, if there is any kind of process names or in terms of the categories, whatever is required, something of that sort. And if you want to add any kind of records, all that, so those records can be updated equally. So that is where something we have to update only here, right? So only my records means whatever the records do we have and all everything, those records has to be updated to the existing repository we are maintaining under this. So that we have to update the records, right? So this is where generally we have to update the records, whatever we are maintaining. At the same time, the kind of workflows, what is that you want us to run, right? So whatever the workflows to run and all everything is what we have to mention over here, right? So this is something essentially required and all everything, right? So this is where generally one has to be updated. Depends on the requirement what we have and all everything. This is what generally we need to update. At the same time, if there is any kind of values to be given to the existing workflows, because if you want to run the workflows and all everything in real world, lookup records has to be updated in regular intervals. That is one thing we have to see. At the same time, if you want to update any kind of dialogues or if you want to search for any kind of recordings, right? So for example, any record information which was already there in our repository, right? So because in this search field, if there is any kind of repository which is relating to the record options or something like, so those record files will be taken. So workflows are the one which are useful whenever we are updating the records into the existing repository. And then that can be translated as a workflow, because site creation itself uh, is not only the thing. Apart from the sites, whatever we have created, if there is any kind of workflow has to be any kind of workflow, what has to be seen in real world. Actually, there are some records or the actions or the activities, whatever we have developed so far. those can be updated into that, right? So that is one thing we can do. So that is one way, because creation of sites also can be done. At the same time, if we want to export any kind of sites and all everything in an Excel format based on the sites what we have created, we can export here, right? So here you can see there is an option where we can export the information, whatever the selected information we have taken, we can select, we can update the selected information only, because this is where generally we have selected, because July is what generally we have selected JEL. So that particular this thing will be created, that particular this thing will be updated into the existing repositories. That is what one we have to be done. Along with this, whenever we want to perform any kind of actions, or if you want to save filters to the current views and all everything, so save current filter views, which are majorly used. If you remember, whenever I have explained about filters, there will be an option called edit filters. Have you seen that? Easily, right? Edit filters I have shown you in the beginning. Have you remember that?
Yeah.
Right. So that edit filters and all, so their filtering process can be done, because filtering process can be done based upon the existing records what we are maintaining, because filtering of the process, or updating the filtering records and all everything happens once in a project, wherever we required and all, there those updations has to be mentioned here subsequently. That's what generally we do in regular intervals, right? So that's how generally we do all that. So this is where generally we have to update the site informations, whatever the sites we have and all. So that site informations has to be updated here equally. That's what we want to do here, right? So this is where generally the site informations and all everything is what we have here. This site informations and all is what generally we have, right? So what are the sites we have and all everything, those site informations can be seen here equally. So this is one thing we have to do in context to the site creations, whatever the site creations we have and all everything is comes under this. After that, if you want to add any kind of currency.
So I have a question. Why do we create a site from the business perspective?
Yeah, see that in the beginning itself, I told you, again, I'm repeating, because generally site creations are the one which are required for us, where we have to update the information. Because if you want to update any kind of business information and all that, we are not developing websites. We are developing the local sites we are creating. Understand, right? Because, for example, we are working on the sales data. Am I right? Right? Sales data we are working on. So whenever we are working on the sales data, the data need not be a customer data, right? Customer can also be a company. Am I right? Customer need not be a person. Sometimes, for example, you are in providing some services to some manufacturing organizations. Let me put you this way, right? When you talk about your customers, who are your customers? Organizations are your customers. Am I right? Customer is not an individual. Customer can also be a company. Am I right?
Yeah.
Right? Customer can also be a company also. So when you want to represent the company information, how do you represent? For example, if it is a customer, as an individual, if you see, you can mention the customer ID, you can write down the customer name, right? Customer contact number, email IDs, all these can be updated. But whereas when it comes to the what we call, but when it comes to the organization as a customer for us, what will be there here? We have to mention the sites, because we have to create the sites, and whatever the relevant information, whatever the updated business email details and all everything, we have to update. For example, you have to give a site name, nothing but your customer company name I'm talking about, right? Customer company name, followed by this customer locating, in which address are they locating, followed by the which time zone they belongs to. At the same time, they have to mention the kind of contact details as well as email details and all everything has to be updated. So this is all we are updating for us to maintain the records of the customers. Customers in context to the organization, I'm saying, because sites we are creating for organizations, not for individuals. For individuals, we have a data, right? So you don't prepare, because for individual, you will be having a data of the customer name, at the same time, whichever the designation or the organization they are working for, followed by this their contact details, XYZ will be there. But whereas when you are dealing your customer, someone who is if you are talking about customer is someone who is an organization. How do you represent that customer? If you want to represent the customer and all that, so that customer site has to be created. Why site is required? If you want to create, why site is required? Because you want to update the information about their contact details, followed by the location where the company was existed. So if you have not updated all the records, what will happen? Because whenever you are managing sales CRM application in the real world, if you don't have sufficient data of the customers, of your customer, because customer company name itself only won't be sufficient, right? You need to have a complete details about the customer, their office address, followed by the contact details, either it could be mail or fax or contact details and all, everything has to be updated. On that grounds, generally these sites will be created by us. If it is an individual, you don't require to create a site, but your sales requirement is something connected to organizations. For example, organizations are your customers. If that was the case, so that what you have to do is that you have to update the customer details and all everything to this. Understood? Clear, Kingsley?
Yeah.
Right. So if your customer, one line answer again, I'm repeating, site creation is required because if you want to represent your customer, if you want to update the records of your customer need not be an individual. Customer can be organization also. If you want to update the records of the organization, we have to update the records of the organization based on their number, based on the name of the organization. Next, contact details, followed by the place of communication or address location of the business which it was located, under which time zones are they belongs to, etc., etc. So that information has to be updated under the sites. Understood, right?
Yeah.
Are you clear?
Yeah.
Right. So this is one thing which normally we have to do. After that, if not science, for example, if you want to form any kind of editors, for example. So in Dynamics, there is an option called Power Apps, right? Power Apps is an option we have. So where in here, in this Power Apps, what we can do, whatever the form editors and all everything means, if you want to create a detailed form of it, detailed a form of the information of the customer or someone, so that information we have to update here. The detailed form information can be updated here. At the same time, every organization will have some business rules, right? So if you want to write any business rules and all, here you can see there will be a new business rule where we have to write down the business rules first. Understood? Clear? Are you clear? Right? So here I am writing down, I am writing this Power Apps here. I am writing this one so that I am writing the form editor, because whatever I have explained you so far is to site creation. But site you are creating in a form of, in a medium of form. Generally, there will be an option called form editor in Power Apps we have. So here, what is that we can do is that we can update the data, whatever the data of the customer, that data can be updated. So at the same time, that is one thing we can do. Or else, if you want to insert any kind of information to the existing ones and all everything, that information can be updated equally. So now what we can do here is, if you want to create any kind of rules or something for the existing site, what is that we are creating, right? So a default site we are creating and all that. So we have to create some business rules. Business rules creation is important because any organization will run their business based on the business rules what they have prepared. These business rules may vary sometimes, depends on the market conditions and all that. So the business rules can be changed. Hence, whenever we are using on Power Apps and all, organization as well as the site creation of the information, whatever we have given or whatever we have mentioned so far and all. So what is that we can do is that here we can create some new business rules to that. So if you want to create any business rule and all, you can see here there is an option called business rule. If you are clicking on this business rule, you can see you can get this page will be opened here, where we have to create new business rule. Here we have to add the business rules. Means if you want to add any kind of business rules to the existing ones and all everything, we have to write. For example, display name, right? For example, an organization business rule is what we are working on. Now, condition. Can you tell me one condition? Tell me one condition, new condition.
I'm not familiar with the conditions, right?
Anything, whatever you like, you can tell me. Simple. Because how to create business rule, I'll show you. That's it. Any condition. Condition is security, right? For example, right? Security, applying security. Applying security is a business rule. Because, for example, company data is important. For example, company data is important. Means managing the company data is important. So to manage the company data, what is that we require? Systems must be secure. Yes or no?
Mm-hmm.
Systems must be secure, encrypted. Systems must be secure. And whatever the data company is using and all, that information must be in encrypted format, so that people cannot see the data directly, right? That's what it is. So now what we can do, we are applying a condition of a business rule. Business rule can be represented for anything, right? So what I have taken for a particular site is to create a new business rule by applying new securities to the existing ones. That's what I have taken. Understand? Clear?
Yeah.
Understood all, right? So business rule I have taken. Now, entity, what is an entity here? Site is an entity, right? Site is an entity. Now, if there is any kind of rule one, right? So what was the rule one here? For example, source is a business process, right? What was the source name? Category. For example, category. Now, which stage is this? We are selecting the active stage, which is equal to wherein we have to apply it, right? So here, this is where you can see there is a business rule which was created here. Understand? Clear? Do you understand this?
Yeah, I'm just reading through.
Yeah. See, for example, there is an organization, and let me explain you one more time. For example, there is an organization. Let me put you insurance company as an organization by itself, or banking financial services. What financial services do? Financial services are managing the financials of the customer. Portfolio management is what they are doing. So securing the customer data is essentially important in any finance and banking sector, banking and finance sector, securing the customer data. Why? Because customer is transacting their money through different means. So securing the data of the customers as well as the financials of the customer is the highest priority. So when someone is managing their business, if a banking or finance business, there are some business rules which normally they follow, right? So they create and they follow. What business rule? Whichever the transaction and whatever the transaction in the existing business process they are working, that business process should be secure as much as it can. For example, this was the rule. Understood, right? Because the business process, whatever they were maintaining, must be a business process, what they were maintaining must be a secure rule, right? That is what companies policy, because that's the customer data, right? So what they have to do now, they have to apply a business rule here. What is a business rule they have applied here? Condition is that applying security is what generates the business rule. Now, if they want to apply the business rule, if applying the business rule to the site of the particular organization, right? So what is that rule we have to write? What was the source? If you want to apply security, where are we implementing security? Where are we applying security? When there is any business process is running, then only that security will be of useful. For example, if there is no business is running, there is no point in creating security for the documentation. Am I right? Right? So business process is what generally the source we have taken. Now, what was the field? Field we have selected as a stage category, right? So category, under category, this applying security is what we have taken. But applying security must be in an active stage. That is required. Then only security of data and all everything will be more useful and helpful. That's the reason why active stage is what generally the stage type we have taken. Now, active stage must be equals to, because that operations must be equal to the type of value, right? So type is generally the value, what is that we have taken. If not value, you can take some other, but value is important because applying security requires some value to be addressed. That is one thing. Here, of course, these are all something relating to address and all that is not needed. So what I did now here I have created and applied the rule. So this was the generally the business rule in reference to the security of managing security application, which was created as a business rule. So this business rule has to be understood by the BA, because as you are a business analyst, whenever you are working on the business requirements of the customer, you need to understand the business problems. So if you want to understand the business problems, what is that you require? First of all, you should know about what are the different business rules which organization follow. Am I right or not? For example, I'll give you another example to you. Not so 100% relevant, but to an extent it will be relevant. You are well versed on Jira. Am I right? You are well versed on Jira, I think, right? So you are working on Jira.
Yeah.
Now, in Jira, there is an option called project rules. Have you seen that? Project rules.
No.
You can go to Jira. Jira.
I know. Yeah, I know what business rules are. I will give you an example in that I'm working with.
You know about the business rules, right?
Yeah, very well.
Okay. Right. So anyway, you know it, so that I don't need to explain more. Right. So this is where generally how business rule has to be created. So business rule was created. Now, for example, if there is any kind of add-on conditions to be added to the existing ones, right? So for example, add set of any kind of business rules, whatever is required. So for example, there was some more business condition to be added, right? So if you want to apply security, so where the security is required for them to apply, where they required this to be applied, where they required this apply to be required. Applying security where?
On the site.
Site where? In the business itself, right? Applying security in all the activities. Right? Whatever the activities they are maintaining, in all the activities, generally, these applying securities are applicable. Am I right? Right? Yes or no? Right? So here, of course, we have to select the address and all, etc., and we can create the activities here. So whenever we have created a business rule flow, right? So business rule flow created. Here you can see there is an option called validate, right? So if there is any kind of validations to be done into the existing ones, wherein if you want to put any kind of conditions or something like, or if you want to create any kind of set default values or set visibilities and all everything, that we can do it. Otherwise, if the business rule was created, for example, right? Because these are the components which can be used. Means if you want to explain about the flow, this is the condition we use. Or if you want to perform any kind of actions and all, these are the different options wherein we have to select here. So whenever we are selecting it, here we can see there is an option where we have to mention about the kind of option which is called save here, right? So this is where generally it was. So whenever you want to mention about the saving option for a particular business rules and all everything, make sure these rules has to be existed in the organization, whatever they are maintaining. Because unless until organization is not maintaining unless until organization is not implementing the rules and all, updating these rules here will not have any value at all. Is it clear to you? Understood, Kingsley? Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So if there is any kind of because these business rules are something like, right? So if there is any kind of business rules which are to be followed or which are to be implemented, right? So what is that we can do, right? So those business rules has to create. So this is how generally this business rules creation is what generally we have to do, especially, right? So if you want to create a new business rule, now you can write down the business rule name, right? What was the business rule name? For example, applying security, right? Applying security is what generally the business rule is. Now you can write down the name. Right? So applying security. To secure the process and as well as the data, right? So this is what generally the description we have written. So wherein if there are any kind of rules to be maintained or something of that sort, generally these business rules as well as descriptions and all everything is what we have to write. So this is how generally the business rules and all everything is what we have to create. Clear to you now? Understood?
Yeah.
Right. So now, for example, this is the file which you want to update, right? So if you want to update this in the documentation, for example, if there is any documentation we are preparing, we want to have this process. So what we can do is that we can simply copy, and whatever the documents are we maintaining. For example, we are maintaining some documents, right? So for example, this is the document I have taken, for example, right? So this is the document I have taken. Yeah. So this is what generally the document is what we have taken. So whenever we have created this document, this whatever the workflows we have created, whatever the flow charts we have created and all, whatever the flow charts or whatever the workflows we have created and all, this can be updated wherever it is required. So this is a business rule. For example, business rule 1, right? So this is business rule 1, let's say, right? Right? So this is what generally the business rule. So whenever there is any documentation we are preparing, what we can do, if this is exceptional, of course, this is an optional thing which is not mandatory. If we want, this process can be taken as a screen, And that can be updated in the documentation where being a BA, wherever we are preparing, there this process can be updated accordingly. So this is how generally this will work. Did you understand this? Clear?
Yeah.
Understood or not? Right? So this is where general. So, but if you want to write down any kind of new business rules and all, make sure you need to have a proper connect with Power Apps, because Power Apps is the one which will be used for us to write business rules and all. Because without Power Apps, we don't write. Because we need to have Power Apps and all, everything is what we need to write. Understood? So this is where generally this business rules and all, everything is being used here. Understood? Clear?
Yeah.
Now insert means there is nothing much to explain about insert, because if you want to add any kind of two columns to the existing application, right? So something of that sort. Generally this insert option will not be of much useful for us, because our major option is to update the site informations, whatever are we planning to update, right? So that information relating to the customer related site informations has to be updated. But major challenge is that creating a new business rules are important, because based on the business rules, organization vary. That to being a BA business analyst, we have to understand the business rules of the organization. Because whenever you are providing a solution for us being a BA, we have to understand what are the business rules of the organization. Based on that, relevant solution has to be provided subsequently. Otherwise, even though we have provided solution, if it is not matched or aligned with the business rules what customer has, then the application will be considered as a failure. Right? It usually failure means it doesn't serve the real needs of the customer what they are expecting. So that's the reason why creating these business rules and all everything, or adding new business rules to the existing ones, is required here. So this is what it was. So this is what generally this site creations and all everything is what generally we do, right? So this is how generally the site creations and all everything can be done.
Yeah, just to be really clear, that form, is that form for adding existing rules alone?
Sorry?
You know, when you create a site, and then you were showing me that form that you fill in Power BI, right?
I didn't understand. Can you repeat your question?
Yeah. So this is a site, right? And
Site
then
creation, yes.
Yeah, this is site creation. Then you now talk about that
Form
form.
editor.